We'll see if we can get there. As we are getting into our next series and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gresvan, we have the South Korean Terran representing himself. It is herO. Just need a moment. There we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player representing CranKy Gaming. It is herO. AKA barcode. God damn it. Este herO. But yeah, I did report the correct score to the admin, so hopefully they do fix that up. Again, I don't know if I accidentally reported the wrong score. It's very possible. I am on ibuprofen right now, so not like this. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, getting into our next game. Getting into our next series, and honestly, this could be the finals. herO, one of the strongest Terran players in the world right now. We were praising him earlier about his performances in Game Wars 8 and in Masters Coliseum. I think herO is probably top, maybe even top 2. I think I may even place him higher than Bjorn. In certain matchups, I would place him higher than Maru as well. So yeah, herO, he is terrifying. He's a terrifying player at the moment. But he's also up against the best Protoss. He's up against herO. So this is a really good matchup for herO. A really good matchup for herO as well. Could go in either direction. Again, this could even be the finals. That's just how stacked this tournament is. That's just how many good players there are in ESL Open Cup Americas. There's players like herO and herO. There's Dark. There's Clem. There's Gumiho, who's the ESL Masters Summer runner-up. There's Bjorn, of course. Who's Bjorn? It's crazy. Ay. We'll see how this turns out. We do see herO just going for an SCV scat across the map. Nothing too fancy. No bunker, no eBay block or anything like that. Just a standard SCV timing for a scout. Reaper dips in. And it's just going to be dancing here with the units of herO. For those wondering, a Reaper does outrange an Adept. Reaper does outrange it, so if you are quick enough, you can kite an Adept to death. It is just a really, you know, crisp thing that you have to try to pull off. As we saw herO get a couple of hits in. Meanwhile, behind this, it was of course a more economic opener. Rax's, sorry, bunker. What? CC's getting up and running. Factory now on the way. herO getting into his build. Reaper Cliff is looking solid, and herO did opt to go for a Stargate opener instead of a Twilight Council. Has this been spotted? It has not been spotted here by herO. He's not fully aware of what's going on. And an interesting choice. Yeah, we don't really get to see herO go for Stargate openers like this too often, to go into Phoenixes. It does happen from time to time, but I'm so used to seeing herO go for Adepts early on, into Oracles, into just mass harassment. So I appreciate that he is mixing it up. And instead of going for a more standard style, going for Phoenixes, I imagine eventually into Colossi. I say that, we do have a third gateway instead of a Robo. So this could be a bit of a tell that maybe he wants to go for a Phoenix gateway heavy composition instead. I'm speaking like Phoenix Chargelots. As we are just banking up Phoenixes back at home. Really interesting that we have yet to really reveal our hand. And herO still has no idea as to what's going on. He hasn't seen any Skytoss units. There's that Robo finally on the way. herO going to be delaying his own expansion quite a bit longer. Also, my apologies. I thought this was a third gateway, but it's a second gateway, so that's fine. It was just his second gateway. As herO is looking to expand. And again, as the Hellion gets forced back, we still haven't seen anything yet until now. Oh, herO, he was trying to hide his Phoenixes, but alas, the jig is up, and herO has spotted the Phoenix production. He knows. And there we go. Turrets are on the way. Before this, he had no reason to have anti-air ready in his mineral lines. But now turrets are being thrown down. Their depths are about to shade in, and they will commit. They're going to be forcing some friendly fire. They force the unsiege of the tank. Only 2 SCVs go down. That could have been, that should have been so much worse. Mine drops are moving out. As the mine drops move out, the Phoenixes are moving in. And we'll see if herO can keep up. As he's going to try to get some economic damage done, but there are so many Marines in position. He's going for the Raven. Raven will go down at the same time the mine drop comes in. No reaction. No reaction. 6 probes go down. And the Phoenixes have to recall back home. Now, there was a bit of a give and take. The Phoenixes, they will shut down the drops. They did get the Raven as well, which is the most important thing. But outside of that, these Phoenixes, they just haven't done too much else. And as soon as the Raven got picked off, he's expanding. He's taking another base. So we talk about this a lot, the dynamic of TVP, but the Raven just adds so much value to your army that if you're able to keep the Raven alive and if you can ferry it across the map, then you can just use it to end the game and just disable those Colossi, shut them down, and just snowball out of control. That's why it's so important that herO got the snipe on the Raven. And with that, he has to go for a longer game. Does have to expand. Meanwhile, the Phoenixes, they had a hard time getting damage earlier, but so many SCVs are going down. Oh my god. There is no answer. There's nothing stopping these Phoenixes. At the same time, he's sending everything across the map. He has accepted his fate, that his workers will die. We have a drop going towards the main. We have the main army going to be rotating over towards the left-hand side. Mine drop is coming in as well. Oof. So we'll connect with the army. Another mine drop into the main. Is going to get cleaned up. He's reinforcing again. The pressure is on to get damage done. The pressure is on to break herO. Just because of how much he's lost back at home. I wouldn't say that is all in, but, you know, he's got to make something happen. There we go. He does manage to siege up. He's busting into the natural as well. Drop is being dealt with, but he's going uncontested. He gets the entire mineral line. herO, asleep at the wheel. I know the Phoenixes were busy dealing with the drop, but the ground army should have been here. 17 probes go down. herO with a massive misstep. I'm just a little bit shocked. I'm not gonna lie. With those 17 probes going down, suddenly he has done more than enough. He suddenly takes an economic lead. Now, he's still up against 3 Colossus. Like, the Colossi are still terrifying. They're still very threatening. But he's killed 26 probes throughout this entire game. Oh, I love it. Hallucinated probes to try to bait out those Widow Mine shots. Send them in, Bobby. Send them in. As it does force a Yarn Bar, another Widow Mine is going to go down. Really cute stuff here from herO. As the third mine does get baited. Now, does herO have enough to break his opponent? We have a War Prism. We can reinforce. There is a Ghost. Big EMP. Big EMP on the army. Marauders are getting picked up. The boys, they have to be pulled. The Colossus are barely standing. two of them are oh so low, and herO is still not letting up. I mean, after losing so many probes, he can't. He takes down a couple more of these Widow Mines. The third base is under threat. But you can see how low these two Colossus are, but again, a shout out to herO for being able to save them for so long, to protect them. He was juggling them earlier. Up. Oof, big mine shot on the main army. Likewise, a big EMP on those Phoenixes. 16 SCVs go down. herO was able to get on top of this base, forcing a relocation of the third. herO's already done an amazing amount of damage. He's taking a fourth base behind this. He's getting into disruptors. He's gaining ground. At this point, I think he maybe should respect this. Like, that's a lot of ghosts, a lot of EMPs, a really powerful concave, and yeah, there we go. herO, he does back off. He's gonna rotate around instead. He did well for himself, and he doesn't want to throw away what he's gotten, what he's achieved. But now he has disruptors. Now he has another form of splash damage. Oof. Another really good EMP from Cure. Oh my god, the Phoenixes are being thrown away. They take the mines to the face. Big concave as well. The Nova does connect with the Bio Army, but it looks like there's just not enough to protect these Colossus. Not enough to protect the Protoss army here of herO. As herO bleeds out a lot of high-tech units, and yeah, he's got to back off. His Phoenix count was almost reset. He lost a Colossus, lost a Disruptor, lost the majority of his Stalkers. He did fly too close to the sun. He lost 12 Phoenixes. Ay, ay, ay. And now he does have to back off. And Cure, he's able to find himself in a pretty strong position here. Right now he's back on 3 bases. Doesn't quite have a 4th on the way yet, but outside of not having a 4th base, his main army is looking pretty terrifying. It's one of those things where herO was doing well, but once a Protoss player starts losing their high-tech units, it takes a really long time to replace them. It takes a really long time to replace and rebuild, especially considering that herO, he hasn't taken his gases, so he doesn't have the economy to sustain double robo production. He can only make 1 robo unit at a time. So every time he loses a Colossus or a Disruptor, it's just devastating for him. Now that he's taking additional gases, like, he should be able to afford a second robo, but until then, these losses, they're brutal for herO. They are brutal as he's getting into Blink. Getting into the rest of his upgrades. +1 armor on the way to help out with that +2 attack. Looks like he's going to be able to keep up with this main army here of Cure. Prism does slip into the main. We do get a massive warping of Zealots. Is it going to be enough to break these reinforcements? I'm not so sure. As we have another army here on the left-hand side. Does force a recall. Ooh, and that was the entire army, by the way. The Zealots are overwhelming the reinforcements in the main base. Cure is losing SCVs. These Zealots, they're getting out of control. They're getting out of hand. At the same time, though, because herO recalled his entire army over, he does expose his own third. The boys know! The probes are pulled and every single probe goes down. They didn't have to go that way, by the way. They didn't have to attack. But that was a meat grinder. Every single probe falls, but at the same time, herO, he does take over the main. He's camping the production. He gets 26 SCVs. So even though herO threw away his mineral line, he also got a mineral line across the map as well. And then some. And in the end, it looks like herO, he's coming out on top. Killing Marines and Marauders as they pop out. These +2 Zealots are just going ham. And in the end, Cure came out worse for wear. Here we go, herO is going for a big counter attack. He's still got his 3 Colossus. His Disruptor count is honestly looking quite solid as well. It was a Zealot warping into the main base that won herO the game. GG gets called, and herO takes game number 1. GG. Oh my god. GG, well played. Congratulations. herO does take that first game. And that was pretty close. That was actually pretty back and forth. Pretty back and forth overall, with both Cure and herO having their moments, and also not having their moments, where herO would maybe lose a little bit too much at a time. But alas, you know, he was able to really find these opportune moments for himself, and cripple the economy of Cure when it mattered most. GG. GG, well played. And now we're getting into game 2. Alright, diving into that second game. To determine who takes this series and who advances on into the semifinals of ESL Open Cup Americas 193. God, there've been so many editions of this tournament. So many. And here we go. Spawning in the top right hand corner, we have the South Korean Terran. South Korean Terran player, currently teamless. It's a travesty. It's a travesty that he's teamless. He deserves to be on a team. One of the best Terrans in the world. It is Cure. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player representing CranKy Gaming. It is herO. Of course, herO up 1-0 in this series, in this best of 3, 1 game away from making it into those semis. But again, it was pretty back and forth for both herO and Cure. I would say that especially towards the end of that game, like, Cure was doing everything right. Like, he was doing a great job at pulling apart herO, at creating these opportunities, at crippling the economy of herO as well. If only he had enough at home to defend the warp in, right? The warp prism that slipped in. I thought there would be. Like, he did have a couple of units that were coming out from the production line. He had Winter Mines, Marauders, Marines as well, but it just was not enough. Those Zealots were so well upgraded, and yeah, that straight up did win herO the game. If it wasn't for that Warp Prism, then that game would have continued and Cure would have been at an advantage. He was finishing up his 4th base. He had just killed 20 probes. He would have kept the majority of his army alive because there's no reason to overcommit, and would have been a very different game. It's a very clutch moment towards the end. Very clutch indeed. Now we are getting into that game 2. Now, Ancient Cistern is not a bad map for Skytoss. It's actually pretty good. If we wanted to, I say Skytoss, if we wanted to get into a Stargate opener, is what I mean. Phoenixes into Colossus can work very well on Ancient Cistern. In general, I typically say for Protoss it isn't the best idea to go for the same like kind of overall play style multiple games in a row in a series, but that doesn't really apply to Phoenix Colossus. Phoenix Colossus is just really solid and really well-rounded as a play style and a unit composition, so it would make sense for herO to go for something similar. As he's going for a safer approach, and oh, he goes for a Twilight Council instead of a Stargate. Okay, let's go. And this is what I love out of herO. Again, he's always mixing it up in a series. Even if he doesn't have to, he will. Oh, the Reaper is going to bypass that Adept for the time being. Now, we did have a sentry opener as well from herO, so it is going to be very safe with this. He has access to a hallucination, which means he's going to be able to get a full scat of his opponent to get a read on whether or not he's being 3-raxed, or whether or not he's, you know, up against a more economic, faster TC opener, which is, you know, something that we have been seeing rise in popularity is Terran players on maps like Altitude or even on Babylon as well. We've been seeing some very fast OTC builds in this matchup. As the Reaper dives in, gives its life for the cause, and herO does scout the Twilight Council. Meanwhile, Hallucination comes in and sees the 1-1-1. Confirms the gases, and it confirms everything that herO is up to. So herO is aware of the Blink Stalker opener. herO, he's aware of the 1-1-1. And how many gateways are we going to be working with? We have one gate in the main base. We have 2 gates here in the natural. So far a 3-gate Blink Stalker opener. I wouldn't be surprised if we throw down a 4th one. 3 gates is enough for a map. Sorry, it's enough for aggression map presence, but you do expand behind it. A 4th gateway signifies a much more committed, not all in, but just very committed play. Very aggressive play. In the face of your opponents, the units are being fanned out, and the drop has been spotted. With the positioning of this probe, it does look like, yeah, herO, he's only going for a 3-gate opener. So only 3-gate blink. With this, he does have map control. At least he should. Did he miss it? No, he missed it. The units were attacking, but the mine drop does slip into the main. Oh god, oh, this looks so late. No! Probes are going to be going down. 3 probes so far. We have another mine shot. Oh no! Another mine shot does go off, taking down a Stalker. This was a bit of a messy defense for herO, but he does clean it up in the end. Losing 3 probes and a Stalker. Now what's important is that it wasn't just the damage that herO was looking for, but he also scattered and he saw all the gateways, which means he knows that even though he didn't see the 3rd, he knows that a 3rd is being taken. He knows that he isn't really in too much danger back at home. herO is now going for a bit of a counterattack. Really, this is just designed to contain, maybe pick off a couple of units here and there. herO does have access to high ground vision with that sentry, of course. As he blinks them forward, he takes down a bunker, and he gets the hell out of there. Yeah, now bunker, a depot, a couple of units here and there. There's no War Prism to reinforce, so what you see is what you get. We can't build up the Stalker count from here. And it looks like he does find his way into the main. There is a tank to defend. But herO, ooh, he does catch the 3rd. Very good pick off. Does force a cancel on the 3rd base. As herO can just blink out of there. And back at home, he's transitioning. He's working on Charge, working on Storm. Interesting. So this time, herO, he's avoiding Colossus. He's avoiding Colossi, avoiding Disruptors, for now, at least for now. I'm sure if the game goes on longer, if we get up to 4 bases, then we will diversify our splash damage. But for now, herO, he's going to be heavily reliant on Storm instead, which can be a risky thing to do. But of course, it does allow you to have a little bit more freedom to throw down more gateways and have a larger army, I should say, gateway-wise. With Zealots, with Stalkers. Meanwhile, here we go. herO is going to be moving out. It's going to be hitting with Stim, with Combat Shields. +1 is done. We have the Raven for disables. Again, which won't be too important here, just because there's no Colossi to disable. I mean, he can disable the Immortals, of course, and he can anti-armor missile the Zealots. So the Raven has a lot more utility. Oh, as we do see herO finding his way over towards that natural base. Good feedback on the Raven. A decent Storm. It does zone the army away. We have 2 more Storms available, and we're just going to be committing. Here we go. The tank goes down. herO, he sees the High Templar coming his way, and he wants none of it. He's forced to back off, forced to just get the hell out of there. And herO's on the chase. He's got 2 storms in that prism. Soon to be 3 storms. Oh god! Oh my god, as the storms are thrown down, the Marines get cleaned up. Cure was trying to snipe that prism, by the way. Cheeky move. Meanwhile, he goes for a double drop across the map. He forces the recall. Oh my god. The mine shots go off and 16 probes go down. The entire mineral line. And now suddenly, Cure, he has time to build up his forces. herO doesn't have much here in position. He's got a couple of storms. He's waiting for his reinforcements to come back because he was forced to recall. And Cure, he's in a heavily fortified position. He's got a massive minefield. Like, how do we push into this? 6 Widow Mines, a tank. To be fair, 3 of those Widow Mines are now on cooldown. And here we go, the storm on the tank. 2 storms, 3 more storms are just targeting on everything. The boys have to be pulled, but at this point, there's nothing left for the Terran. No more Marines. Oh, sorry, no more tanks, no more Widow Mines. Marauders and Ghosts are coming out, but it looks like it's just too much. herO, he's snowballing out of control. He has broken this position. There was no bunker. There was only 1 tank. GG gets called, and herO takes game number 2 and the series 2-0. GG. Oh. GG, well played. Oh, herO will advance on to the semifinals. When it comes to bit of a PSA as a Terran player, of course, I'm sure Q knows this as well. When you're up against a very charge shot heavy composition or charge shot storm as well, choke points are so important. SimCity is really important as well. He had a minefield, but we saw that it was still a really open area. And because of that, like, we saw the Zealots just rush on in anyway. Like, there just was nothing really slowing them down to get on top of the army of Cure. And I think Cure did a really good job, especially with that counter drop as well, just buying time. But I just barely wasn't enough. Also, imagine if Cure had a couple more seconds for those ghosts to come out. Remember, the ghosts, by the time they came down, the storms are already thrown down, which means they, suddenly their EMPs aren't anywhere near as impactful. If we had those ghosts a couple of seconds sooner, bam, maybe we can EMP the High Templar, maybe we can deny those storms, and maybe we can hold on, maybe we can survive. GG, well played. Regardless, congratulations to herO as he advances on into the next round.